Peter Travers, when I think of you and I talk sometimes about your journey and your company, I feel something very special within me because I got to witness something that is very unique, and you don't get to see all the time. I'll never forget the call when you called me for the first time, and I have never forgotten you and your wife walking into the office and to make a difference or to start making a difference, not only for you guys, but for the whole world. And of course, you, as human and in business, sometimes we doubt, sometimes we understand that there are challenges and outside forces that can come in and disrupt this journey. And you're still there. You're still in the race. So welcome to this talk. And I'll let you introduce yourself and maybe let us know how did you start it, why you started this journey.
Sure.
And also, because at the same time, people don't just wake up and say, hey, I'm going to fight cancer today by starting this company. Mm-hmm. So why don't you bring us into your journey and let us know how this happened.
Sure. Well, it's a privilege to be here, and it's a real joy having met you and having you be a part of you personally, and the incubator, be part of our journey. So, well, it all started with my wife getting a checkup. We had been heavily involved in church. So we were really plugged in, 4 kids, just cranking along. Everything's going well. And then Lori went in for a checkup, and she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was pretty much metastatic breast cancer when they found it, which is a terminal diagnosis. So they told me we had about 2.5 years to live under heavy chemotherapy. And so I really struggled with that. And I learned some things early on in coping with her having a terminal illness that ended up serving me as an entrepreneur. And one of those first things was when we were diagnosed, I went through this huge independent streak, which sounds very odd. But it's just ego. We can manage this. We can take care of this. We got this. I can do it all. And so I tried to manage the 4 kids, take care of Lori, run a business at the same time. And being transparent with you, I gained 55 pounds in 6 months and got type 2 diabetes. Wow. From that, just trying to do it all myself.
Correct.
And, one day it all came to a head. I had to take Lori in a wheelchair to the doctor, 2 kids with me. I was supposed to have a short appointment, go back, pick up a child at middle school. We got to the doctor's office. He was 2 hours late. So I was going to have a child standing out by himself on the street after school. And I'm going, I don't know what I'm going to do here. So I told the receptionist, I'm leaving my 2 kids here for you to watch. If you don't have a reception room when I come back, it's not my problem because, there's nobody here to watch them. So I beelined it to pick up my son at school, got a speeding ticket on the way, raced there and got there, and he was all by himself with this blank look on his face. So I picked him up, went back to the thing, got Lori in the wheelchair, got them all back. Fed them cereal for dinner, got them all put down, and it just all swelled up inside me. And I went out our utility room there, and I hung over the washing machine, kind of in despair. And I said, God, Lori has cancer. And, I heard one pastor say, do you ever hear God's voice audibly? And he said, no, I hear him a lot louder than that. And I swear at that moment, I just had this sense of God saying, I know, will you let me help you now? And that moment changed everything. And there was all kinds of people trying to get into our life that I wouldn't allow in. And I completely let all the walls down. Hey, come and help us. So they started driving for school. They started helping to take care of Lori. They started bringing us meals. I started getting my health back. And it was that church community that really saved our family and our ability to cope. And, we went for prayer and they prayed for us. So I had a sense that God knew what was going on, was in control. And that 2.5 years turned into 18 years, through the prayers and the help of folks. But in that moment, my independent streak went away permanently. And that was very instrumental in my entrepreneurship, not being alone. When we first started, I'm the CEO of LifeBridge Innovations, which is an oncology company introducing a new therapy designed for metastatic cancer of up to 10 different types. But when I first started to do this, the naysayers came in. You don't have the bandwidth for that. You're not a doctor. You don't know this. And I had enough training as a Christian one author put it like this. He said, the Christian life is having a sense of destiny not based on your own track record, but rather on what God can do through you. And I just translated that into business. So, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a great this, but I can build a team. I can put people together. In 2012, we were 14, 15 years in at that point. Lori was running out of chemotherapies. At that point, she had lost her hair 9 times from different chemotherapies, radiation and all that. And chemotherapies were just not working. And we were literally getting our life in order. She had cancer in the pleural around her left lung, collapsing it, so she was struggling to breathe. It was just a very terrible time. And yet we had all this community around supporting us and sustaining us. And Lori herself was my biggest teacher on how God can sustain you and get you through the hardest of times. Through her, Lori lived in the Psalms, and she was so familiar with the Psalms that if she was down, you could give her the number of a psalm, and her countenance would change because she knew the message and it reminded her that message. That's how much she owned the word. So when all that was going on, we were getting our lives in order. We heard about this new therapy called tumor-treating fields, and that it had worked on 10 different types of tumors, only to find out that it wouldn't be available for someone like her for the foreseeable future. So back to church again, undeterred. I go to church with very senior engineers. I mean, the kind of engineers that can send rockets into outer space. Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin. So I took the knowledge of this therapy to them, and I said, what do you think? Bottom line, we formed a team, and we set out to build our own device just to save Lori's life. We're not trying to get into the business. So in 4 months, we did have our own device. I put it on myself first. Fortunately, this is physics and technology, tumor-treating fields, electric fields. So you can put on an oscilloscope and know exactly where you're at. It's not like a drug where you have to do animals. You don't really know what's going on. So I put it on myself, saw that it was safe. On the oscilloscope, we were replicating exactly what the FDA was approving. So we felt good about it. It was safe. So Lori began wearing it 12 hours a day, mostly during sleep. She'd watch TV and then do that. Tumor-treating fields has no side effects. You don't lose your hair. You don't get nauseous. You don't get sick. Sometimes there's minor skin irritation from wearing the transducer arrays that deliver the therapy. So bottom line, in 9 weeks, the cancer in her pleural was completely resolved. It was like, thank God, new lease on life, off of all chemos, hair coming back, went back to work as a neonatal nurse. Just a phenomenal time. Beach trips, swimming. I mean, she used to do a lot of running and mini triathlons and things. It's just a fantastic time. Privately, each day, we didn't even tell our oncologist that we were doing this. Privately, and he was puzzled why we had this turnaround. But then about a year or so in, we had her on maintenance on her left lung. A new cancer broke out in her liver. So we just, without changing her lifestyle, because she was already on therapy every day, we just added an array over her liver, cleared it up in her liver, and just kept right on going. She got to see her first grandchild. She so loved her neonatal job. The way she talked about the kids, I was afraid she was going to kidnap one of them and bring them home to us. But then, after 2 years, cancer broke out in between 2 arrays. In the present form of tumor-treating fields, the arrays are fixed. They're either all on or all off. You can't really control them individually. And it's very important to center arrays over tumors. And you can't, the way that it was placed, you can't put arrays on top of arrays. So we learned that in a very excruciating way that the present form of tumor-treating fields for the metastatic patient with diffuse disease forces you to treat one area while you let another area grow. And that was the beginning of the end for Lori. We stayed after the liver. We let our oncologist know what was going on. He recommended we continue to treat the liver, and we got behind in the other areas and couldn't keep up. But out of it, our engineers, the team said, hey, there's got to be a better way. This therapy works. It's just delivering it. That's the problem. So we came up with a whole new method of delivering it. Instead of fixed arrays, tumor-treating fields are delivered with small discs made up into an array. And as I mentioned, all their arrays are either all on or all off. They all operate together. Well, we decided to make each individual disc its own computer with phase A and phase B, positive and negative, available on every disc, each one fully addressable, so we could manipulate it any way we want. So now we wear a large array, and then the program tells it where to fire. So here, a half a second, we're treating the lung. A half a second later, we're treating the liver. A half a second later, we're treating the peritoneal cavity. So we're covering those areas. And the science says when you interrupt a cancer cell, these frequencies are tuned to the size and electrical properties of cancer cells. They go around normal cells and don't hurt them, but they go through normal cells and disrupt mitosis. And they cause the cancer cells to produce malformed daughter cells. So the cancer cell is originally masked to your immune system, but under the influence of tumor-treating fields, you get malformed daughter cells. They are seen by your immune system. Your immune system goes in and attacks them, and you have tumor reduction. So we're in the business of unmasking tumors from a patient's own immune system. But when you do that intermittent therapy and interrupt the cancer cell, leave for a short period of time and come back, it's just as effective as a constant field. So you can move around and do what you want. You can focus the field. So we patented that. I got these senior engineers from church joined the team. One of the neat things about being a little further along in your faith is your identity is not in being an entrepreneur or being successful. Your identity is in Christ. So I very much wanted to do the team building thing, and that's when we reached out to you, which was a transformative time. And I remember you being such a blessing when you rehearsed the heck out of me getting to get into the incubator,
right,
to make the pitch, and I was really worried about whether I was going to get in or not. And you stopped and said, "Peter, whether you get in or not, I'm going to help you." And that was powerful. I'm very grateful to that today. But so you became a part of our community to help us get going. So we did get in. We did file for our patents. We did get our first patent. Now we have 9 patents on our device and 4 pending. And we went on to get into Johnson & Johnson's JLADS, which is their business incubator. Mm-hmm. And also we're in Synfluence, Orange County's
program,
assistance program. Yeah. But that's kind of how we got into Tumor Treating Fields. So our mission, recently one of our investors asked me, what is your why? And I said, well, I have an advantage over everybody else in that I slept next to someone that was struggling to breathe, put this device on them, and saw them breathe freely and transform their lives into a high-quality life. That is super motivating. And to be able to do that and give other people like that. I live in fear of not doing it, meeting some guy like me with 4 kids down the road and saying, and I could have helped him and I didn't, Right. So I'm really, that really pushes it and motivates us. And the interesting thing as an entrepreneur and also having your identity be in what God wants you to do. One of my sons says, Dad, you're not called to success, you're called to obedience. Is this what God wants you to do? And there's a scripture that says, God confirmed the work of my hands. And he has done that periodically, to let us know, whether it's patents or fundraising or whatever, we've had encouragement that, hey, we're on the right path. But the benefit of having your identity in Christ and not being an entrepreneur is you develop an ability to turn down the wrong investor. There's an old saying, companies don't become what they plan to become. They become who they allow to invest in their company. And there's a lot of people, oncology is huge. I mean, you create billions of dollars of value. If you're successful, you create billions of dollars and that gets people taking shortcuts and here's a quick turnaround. But now when we get those kind of people, we say, hey, we're a public benefit corporation. We're missional as well. And if that bothers you, then we're not a fit for each other. Yeah. And multiple times we've turned people down. So we're blessed with, we've raised over $8 million and from over 90 investors, and almost every one of them is missional. Cancer has somehow touched their lives, and they want to. Our largest investor put in $1.1 million, and he said the same thing I did without me prompting him. I live in fear of meeting somebody that I could have helped and wouldn't have. This is supposed to be question and answer, right?
No,
I'm talking too much.
No, this is perfect. This is what we want, actually. We want you to have a chance to tell the story, regardless of how long is it going to take, because people need to learn, right? So you had a purpose. You were blessed to put a team together, right? And not only a team, but a team that also believe in you, and they were passionate just like you are. And I'm sure that, just so the audience understand, because sometimes they think, well, I don't have the capital to put a team together. Tell us a little bit of the beginning on how were you able to assemble that, and all the way until you got to the incubation program, and then we can take it from there.
So the first, the benefit of being in a Christian community, I've gone to the same church literally for 50 years. So when I went to get prayer for Lori, we call it James 5 prayer at our church. They sat her in a chair, and the elders got around her, and the pastor got down on his knees and took her hands and started out and said, God, this family is our family. And they began to pray and weep for her. And that's how plugged in we were to Christian Community. So the very first senior engineer I went to had been praying for my wife in her cancer battle for over 10 years. Wow. So he without any money, without any capital, in evenings on weekends, he began to put together our first device. And we didn't know what we were doing. We were experimenting and making a lot of mistakes and doing things. Our second engineer, also from Christian Community, all the baptisms for years were at his house in his swimming pool. He was retired from Northrop Grumman, didn't need money, and just had a passion for working to this. So he recruited our third engineer, also from church, and he was software. And I didn't have any money, and my job was to see how I could work out some kind of, how much do you need to begin to write software? How much money do you need? So I got to the first luncheon, and he pulls out this stuff, and he'd already spent hours and hours working on it with the other engineer, with Ken.
You know what's interesting? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, I know you love fishing, right?
Yeah.
On your spare time, but you were fishing. Somehow you
fishing for people.
Knowing it, right? It's
without knowing it.
Yeah.
But to give you the kind of people we're blessed with, so all the engineers are working without any pay, and they're putting in serious time. And so I go to this first luncheon with Ken Watkins is one of our co-founders, and Scott Kryowick was the senior engineer recruited, and he'd already been working on it. And I said, wait a minute, time out, I don't have any money to pay you. And he said, Peter, this is so important, I've got to work on this. If you don't raise the money, I'll just eat the time. But I have to work on this. And that was 11 years ago. And he left, he was formerly with Lockheed Martin. He left Lockheed Martin to work with us full time. And he's now our vice president of product development and software. So we were really, out of that Christian community came all these people that were missional from doing that. So it's very heartening, and it's hard to get permanently down on our team with the kind of people we have around us, because we lift each other up. There's I don't know. Do you have another question? I keep talking.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. There's this entrepreneur who charted out the life of an entrepreneur, and he said, it starts out, hey, I'm going to save the world. It's going to be fantastic. My family, I'm going to make it for my family. And then you start this downward slope. Wow, this is harder than I thought. And then it keeps going, whoa, I don't know if I can make it. And then you get down into this, what they call the valley of death. And this is where a lot of entrepreneurs just die. Not just capital, but their heart, their drive, their ability to make it. My car's going to be repossessed and my wife's going to leave me. I mean, it can get very dramatic in the valley of death. If you make it past that, hey, I'm starting to get some traction, and hey, we made it out, and we're gonna change the world. Well, that same entrepreneur says what you need is a bridge across the valley of death. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was church, family, the business incubator, the team building, and not having my identity be involved, because we're 11 years in. The average oncology drug takes 15 years for approval. So oncology is not something you're going to get into in 2 or 3 years, make it. We're in year 11. Wow. and we're hoping to open our first clinical trial in the end of this year with humans. And it's going to take multiple years to finish that trial. Mm-hmm. So you have to have your identity in something else, not just in that.
Yeah.
And so that team appeal thing, but personal habits are great. I try to have 3 quiet times a day where I'll stop, listen to scripture, and just recenter, and it gives you perseverance becomes not this gutted out, really strenuous thing. It becomes something that, hey, I'm sustained. And the fact that I'm sustained is giving me the ability to persevere. It's kind of a natural perseverance instead of a contrived one or more of a human effort one. And so I do like to fish, for, to have habits. I work out. My late wife got me a bike when I was 60. And by the end of the first year, I got to bike my age in one day. So 60 miles in a day. So I did that for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And then my my oldest son forced me to go to a guy to fit your bike. Mm-hmm. And he would say stuff like, you ride like a brick wall. Or, you have a whole muscle group in your legs you're not even using when you cycle. Anyway, he picked up like 2.5, 3 miles an hour with the same amount of energy. Wow. So for my 70th, I'm 72 now. For my 70th, I'll be 73 this year. I did 100 miles, and I did that for my 71st and my 72nd. So I've done 3 century rides. Wow. 100 miles in a day, but working out all year. But those and even those century rides become a spiritual journey, because I'll take, for this 10 miles, I'm going to pray for my oldest son for the next 10 miles. But anyway, the point is that your identity and the balance of your life can't just be in your business, because you will burn out. You won't make it past the valley of death.
Yeah, I like to tell people that my best ideas, or when I'm struggling with the pressure, I go for a 3.1 mile walk. Or a little bit over 3 miles. But I know when I hit 3 miles, my brain kind of like reset. So taking the time to walk and also listen to the birds, the cars, looking at nature, that giving you that break from the day-to-day hustle is very good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back to something that you started with, which I think is very important for all business owners and entrepreneurs. And it's the fact that you have to realize and understand that you cannot do it by yourself, that it takes a team, it takes a village. Because of that, you have to remove those barriers or firewall that we naturally tend to create. Some people call it ego. Yeah. And because when I was in business, I that was one of my mistakes, is that I had a big ego. I was young, and everybody was a competitor. And I see things so much different now, and I think I have benefited from that. So thank you for mentioning that. And because of that, I think that's one of the reasons you're still at it, because knowing you're taking advantage of everything that gets put in front of you to get to the next level, and you take it with honor, and you benefit from it. You take advantage of it in a good way. You mentioned that you came to the incubation program. You mentioned Senfluence, Johnson & Johnson lab up in Washington. I know that you pitch at some of the Harvard competitions. So you're doing what you need to do, knowing that you need to build a team and a network for you to get to the next level. Something that I would like for you to talk about, because we always use it as a case study, is that you are one of the few companies that went in to raise capital using a platform. It didn't work out like you planned to, but it did work out for you long term.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest realizations that was a little bit slow in coming was that in our particular case, we went for the VC type of money, and when you VCs change the world, they're great if you can get a good one, but by definition, when a VC, you have there's sort of a built-in conflict of interest. I mean, your mission now becomes their exit, not what you want to do. And you have to, if you're going to take their money, you have to respect that, because they have a fiduciary responsibility to their investors. I mean, it's not a wrong thing. It's just a real thing. And that can affect your decision-making along the way. So for us, instead of getting the landslide from a venture capital, we would get small investments from angel investors, but they were missional. And that didn't work. That isn't the way we wanted, because we thought our development was going to go slower than we wanted it to go. But it turned out to be far better, because they are missional. We were able to keep our development and our mission on track. There is pressure. There is a pressure to take a shortcut. The FDA has given us what's called basket trial design in our clinical trial protocol. That means we can treat up to 10 different types of cancer in one trial. We don't have to have 10 different trials, and that's slower than just grabbing one, having a small clinical trial, and getting your first cash. And there's merit to that, but taking primary tumors and doing that, thousands and tens of thousands of people that could be saved will not be saved by doing that. So our investors were fully on board. And over the long term, it turns out that the evidence is mounting that it turns out to be the bigger opportunity for them. That they have their exit by aggregating 10 different types of cancer into one group. Their addressable market is many times larger, and so it turned out to be a win-win, and we didn't know that at the time, but it turned out to be a win-win. So you have to, in my mind, if not lose your mission. And there's nothing wrong if you're making widgets and it's about making money, then the moral side of it may not impact you as much as where people are. I'm getting calls. Can you put this on my wife? Can you put this on my son? And if we have to weigh that in, there's an old saying, you can't play good guitar on loose strings. You have to have tension. So there's this tension between serving your investors and saving human life. And you've got to tune that guy in our business. Because whereas when I started out, I was all missional. We're a public benefit corporation. We want to make money, yes, but, we're missional. Now, 11 years in, getting a sweet return for our investors is totally interwoven with our mission. Now, fortunately, they're in sync. Getting them the best return and our mission are in sync. We've tuned the guitar and to play that good music, but it took a while to get there. So I am making decisions. Like we've decided there are multiple examples of in our field in medical devices. You have a pilot study, which is like a phase 1 and 2 in drugs. And then you have what's called a pivotal, which is the equivalent of a phase 3. And a lot of companies will hang on and go all the way through full approval to your pivotal. Well, there are multiple examples of huge returns by exiting at the pilot study, at the phase 1 and 2 level, and then letting a larger global company commercialize it, which saves more lives and do that. So we're committed to exiting in 24 to 36 months after we have the data from our first pilot study. And we have three global companies following us, tracking us, waiting for that result. So we're interviewing investment bankers to try to get that up to 5 to 7 different companies that can save more lives faster than we can by holding on for full approval.
Interesting. Let's talk about sacrifice, because it sounds, I mean, in an interview and you telling the story, people may say, well, that's great, good for you, and it's all, full of roses, all beautiful. But when you look under the hood, and I've been part of your life for, 11, 12 years now, I know that you have to make some hard choices in order to stay on the race or in the race. Can you tell us a little bit about the side of entrepreneurship or innovators that people don't get to see in order for you to make it to the next level? And again, the sacrifices that you have to make to please not only your family, your business, your mission, and your investors.
Sure. The first 5, 7 years, 8 years, I worked for very substandard salary. And I drove a 2004 Suburban, and I'm up to a 2011 now, because the only reason I got rid of my 2004 is because I got sideswiped and it got totaled. I'd still be driving that. But we have our CFO now. We did this thing. Okay, if the company ever began to make it did go commercial and made a profit, and they wanted to pay you back salary for those early years, what would the shortage be? And he wrote up this thing. It would be $300,000 of non-income that I didn't earn. The deck on the back of my house rotted off. So we lived multiple years without a back door to our house. The roof got so old that in a windstorm, the shingles would flap up and down in the wind. And we had multiple leaks in the roof. Everything was in a state of decay while we were just moving the company along. But we were happy. Again, your identity's not in that. And if you drove by my house, you'd still think it was kind of rough looking, but it has a shored up foundation, a new roof, and brand new air conditioning. But now we got to get a paint job. I don't have a back deck yet, but we're working on it. But yeah, but not having those resources, not having savings to speak of, you just trust God that He's going to provide. Mm-hmm. And you seek first the kingdom, and these things will be added to you. And it just didn't seem to bother us. Mm-hmm. But it was a sacrifice, not right. Not having those things. Right.
Yeah, because you see other people, they start getting money from investors, and they misuse some of the capital for personal gain, and then they derail from the mission. In your case, it's the opposite. You're being very frugal and protective of the mission and that loyalty and trust between you and the investor. So.
Yeah. Our recent success in raising capital is in no small way, one of our board members when we give our pitch, he gets on and says, hey, in nearly 40 years of doing business, this is the most capital efficient company I've ever seen. I don't know anybody who's got further down the road with less money than LifeBridge. And that sacrifice, paid off. People trust us. Yeah.
Tell us about something that, I guess, depending on the industry you're going after or you're in, it's important and it's not important. In your case, it's super important, which is intellectual property, IP. Tell us about that, because some people run away from IP because it's very expensive, but at the same time, there's value. At the same time, it gives you the rights to sue. At the same time, it's a competitive advantage that can attract competitors and investor. Tell us a little bit more about the IP strategy, how you were able to get the team and yourself convinced that this is what we got to do, and this is how we better do it in order to create these firewalls and bring the value up. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's the foundation of the house. You know, you can't build the house without a good foundation, and the IP is the foundation. Mm-hmm. Before we even started, when we had our own, we knew we had a concept for a new device. My first job was to raise $5,000 for a patent search, not even filing for a patent, just the search to see if we were patentable. Mm. And my brother David, I couldn't raise the money. My brother David called me on the phone, said, "Peter, I'm sending you the money Dad would want me to." So family and my sister and him were the first investors in the company. So more community and not being by ourselves. But we had that patent search, and it was patentable. So we filed for our first patent. And the thing that a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize about filing for patents is, yes, you file for patents so you can block other people. But if you don't have patents and you're doing something big, other people will file patents that will shut you down, and you will not be able to do what you want to do. Mm-hmm. And in our field, clinical trials are very expensive, and they're a lot of trouble. Human clinical trials. I don't know of anybody that'll take a Class 3 device through a clinical trial, invest in that, without patents to protect them. So they can't be stopped, and they can stop other people. They just, you go through all that expense if you don't have a patent, and then, you proved it, now 5 other people can come behind you, and you lost it just makes no sense. So we went heavy on the patent filings, and we not only filed patents in the U.S., but we got an international patent office, and we filed internationally. So we have not only patent in the U.S., we're patented in Canada, Mexico, the EU, Japan, India, China, New Zealand, Australia, Chile, Costa Rica. We're patented in all those countries. And later now, here in our 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th year, people and companies come in and they look at those patents and goes, "Oh, this is a global deal." Much higher exit, much higher. It's just foundational. You can't if you don't have a good IP, and we're investing more in IP. Mm. In the early years, we invested more in IP than we did into our device. That's how foundational it was. Okay. So you can't. You need to pay attention to IP. You need to get IP, and there are ways to do it that can for companies to save money. For example, we file a patent. So we have 10, 12 embodiments in that patent, 10 or 12 different inventions, all of which could be patented. But the patent office only allows you to file for one. But all 12 are written up. We grabbed one of those, claimed it in that patent. So that goes through the cycle. Now, the way patent law works is that just before that first patent is granted, you get notice of being granted. So now you got a couple months before it's actually granted. Now you can go back and grab number 11 or the other one, file it new, and it keeps all the other ones alive going in there. So they'll have the priority date of the first patent, but instead of spending $150,000, $200,000 on 12 patents, you can spend $12,000 and then bring them online over a period of years as it goes on. Mm-hmm. We've done that over and over again. We have 9 patents and 5 pending, but we have embodiments of another 15 that we're going to go back and get as our cash flow allows and as it goes up. So,
as a business owner, innovator, without the medical background, I want to talk a little bit about that later, but you brought it up in the beginning, because a lot of people are skeptical when they see a non-medical person trying to build a medical device company. But with your background as a business owner, when you engage with these IP attorneys, tell us a little bit about that experience. Tell us about what has helped you ensure that you get results. Because I have met folks in the past where they start engaging with one IP firm, then they switch, and then at the end of the day, it's all bad experiences. I don't know. Sometimes it's the entrepreneur. Sometimes, I don't know, maybe the firm or the attorney or people just don't click. Tell us about, because it looks to me like you've been very successful getting that support. So tell me more about how you were able to get there.
So it's hard to know the history of LifeBridge without coming back to, being a Christian and just seeking out those kinds of people, those kind of missional people. So the first thing in terms of credibility and getting the right attorney is getting one with the right background. So our attorney's from Indiana. Okay, so how did we live in Orlando, in Central Florida, and get an attorney in Indiana? Well, through a friend and through family and relatives, we got a referral. And this attorney is an electrical engineer first. Okay, so now and if there's something in his firm that has anything to do with electric fields, it comes to him. So he totally got what we were doing. Then later on in life, he went and became a patent attorney. So he's a double E, an electrical engineer, and a patent. So we had the credentials, the qualifications, and then on top of that, he was a believer who was missional. And so we would converse and talk, and he understood our budget. So I would call him, and I think he was, at the time, he was like $600 an hour for his time. And I would call him in the early years, and he'd say, call me on my way home. I'll talk to you in my car, and that way I don't have to charge you. So we'd talk for 45 minutes in his car about stuff just to get us off the ground. But even so, no one understands your product or your device than your team, better than your team. Mm-hmm. So he would come up with things. Well, I don't know the way around this. We would come back and pray and think about how to do things, and present that to him and say, "Oh, okay, we can run with that. We can change that." The thing that really allowed us to get a patent, because again, tumor-treating fields there's already a company out there doing it with fixed arrays, and they have a whole slew of patents. And so we had to be careful that we were really doing something new. Mm-hmm. But the things, getting back to how your mission will serve your entrepreneurship, what allowed us to get a patent was me laying in bed next to Lori, listening to her struggling to breathe, figuring how to maintain her freedom to breathe, and try to figure out how can I get that field to that tumor. Mm-hmm. And that, solving that problem in the middle of the night in prayer, is what became patentable. So your mission served your ability to do that. So that gave us the edge, and we got our first patent. But even so, patent attorneys have a slew of clients. No one knows your device like you. And we've had times where he ran into a dead end, and I went back and read some of the opinions from our international patent and brought that in, And he said, oh, that's right. And was able to spur him on to do his job better. You can't delegate it. Okay, you can't. Now, at some point, it gets so massive and so detailed that you're going to have to delegate some of it. But one of the now, as we're, you know, the beauty of this team thing was when we were at Johnson & Johnson's J Labs, a huge VC company found us there and wanted to look at us. And so they did. And they said, we want to hire an expert to examine you. So the former director of science for the other company, who no longer worked for the other company, was contacted by them. Hey, would you come check out LifeBridge? So he came and checked us out, and this is 4 years ago, and said, hey, this looks good, but they don't have the documentation that I need to give an opinion. And so the VC company said, okay, well, we're going to follow you, in which they still are. They answer all our phone calls, and we keep them up to date. But as soon as they were done with him, I wrote Zev Momsen, hey, what is your situation? And he wrote back, I would love to work with LifeBridge. Long story short, he is now our chief scientific officer, and he's been 3 years with us. And he's easily one of the top two experts in the world. He's on 37 patents globally.
Wow.
With tumor treating fields. His name was on there. So now I have the team. Zev, this patent is over my head. Will you work with Max, our patent attorney, and make sure Max has got what he needs to get it done? So as your team grows, you can delegate it out. But you can never just go to the patent attorney, here it is, you take care of it. Mm-hmm. You know, our international patent attorneys, I get highly detailed stuff, and I have to run it by our engineers and run it by our other thing. It's a community thing. But it is your foundation. You have to pay attention to it. Yeah. And I wish I could spend more of my time on our patents.
Okay. So I was going to say, was that a small win? But I think that was a huge win when you have the technical expert from another company coming in and say, hey, this is real, and validate what you're doing. Oh,
it was incredible. Yeah. Oh, it's incredible. Awesome. You know, we have investors that came in just because of that. You know, in less than a month, in the middle of this month, he and I are going out to the American Association of Cancer Research, and he submitted 2 poster papers that got accepted for delivery. So he's now publishing on the LifeBridge device in scientific journals. Wow. We finished our animal study. As soon as that's done, he's going to publish that. And so now we're getting published and do that. It's all about that team building and doing that. That
credibility is important.
Very interestingly, when I give my pitches, he's always in the pitch now. And when I introduce him and give his credentials, the first thing he says, there's 2 reasons I joined LifeBridge. The first was the story. To be part of a team that built a device in their home, in their garage, to save a loved one, I had to be a part of this. You know, so again, your mission, if you are mission, you'll attract a lot of people. Mm-hmm. People wanted, you know, I forget the gentleman, Sidwick or somebody, who, you know, people invest in not in what you do, but in why you do it. Mm-hmm. And if you stay with your mission and you have a big why, you'll attract a lot of quality people into what you're trying to go for.
I have another question here. What's been harder for you, the science, raising capital, the funding, or building the business?
By far, it's the funding. It takes up more of my time. The science, we know what to do. I mean, J Labs has got us relationships with universities, and we have Dr. Bompson as our chief scientific officer. You know, it's blocking and tackling. Mm-hmm. It's making sure that you stay ahead of the funding. And I fought that for years. And that I got to work on the device. I don't have time for this. So we'd go out and raise a bunch of money. Then, I have money now. I'm going to work on the device. And then we'd run out of money again because wasn't working on the funding. So over the years, we built up 90 individual investors. And finally, people who were really quality investors, Peter, you got to communicate with these people more. And so last year, I did 14, 15 weeks in a row of very detailed investor updates. This is what Tumor Treating Fields is. This is how it works. Here's the competitive scenario. Here's what it means for patients. Here's, in details. I mean, you could put them together and you have a little book now on Tumor Treating Fields and our adaptive form of tumor treating fields. So we did that for 15 weeks in a row. Then in December, we had 2 dinners. We brought our investors together. Mm-hmm. And in those 2 dinners, we raised $2 million. Good. Because we had done that kind of communication. So now I spend, 70% of my time communicating with investors, trying to keep the funding going. It's
like being a politician. You always have to be campaigning, right? So it's not about just getting the money and getting a check, but now the hard part is communicating and executing and keep raising capital at the same time.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And it is a challenge. When I came to the business incubator, I had brown hair. No, I'm teasing you. But that is by far the funding things. And there's a big challenge for entrepreneurs. Like we do have these larger companies following us, and one tried to buy us twice, or tried to buy our IP twice. And there's advisors that are saying, don't let them in right now, because if you let a big company in, it scares everybody else off, and when you go to exit, you won't have a bidding war. They'll go, oh, that's with that big global company, I'm not even going to play, and you'll end up getting like 40% less for your investment. But it is a temptation to, if they did come in, all of a sudden 70% of my time could be spent on getting us through the FDA instead of on fundraising. So again, you got to tune that guitar too and figure out where you are. But right now, we're just keeping them informed and following us and trying to get more of them to follow us. But yeah, it is a real, funding is, at the end of the day, it's why you're there, the CEO. Right. I mean, make decisions and keep everybody funded. Right. Is why you're there.
And in your case, it makes sense to go after external capital and raise funding. But I've seen other companies that they have no reasons to go and chase for money. They're just, in my belief, I think they're lazy, and sometimes they lose focus of sales and mission, and then end up crashing at the end of the day. But in your case, you're trying to save life. Cancer is a problem that we all deal with. The process is very expensive, and it's uncertain. So it makes total sense.
Yeah, you have in my field, you have no choice because you're pre-revenue,
right,
until the FDA approves you.
Right.
So we have no way of getting sales.
Right.
So it's all got to be investors.
And I'm getting chills right now because I just realized something, that you have been able to do all this without taxpayer money from NIH grant, NSF, SBIR, strictly private funding.
Right. Wow. Yes. And I consider that a blessing.
Yes.
We've applied for grants, but some of the controversy now, I'm kind of glad we don't have that money.
Right.
There's no strings attached to it.
Yes.
Some presidents were, or I forget what political person was saying, or there's some obscure law that if you receive funds from the government, they can go after your patents or go after your income if they wanted to. There's some clause in there. We're free of all that. Mm-hmm. We don't have that.
All right. So I got 3 more questions for you. And I think that we can wrap this up. And these are rapid questions, so
I
short answer.
can't promise rapid answers. But
I know, I get it.
Okay.
You have a lot of battle scars and a lot to share. But one thing that you have never, that you will never do again, if you get to start, if you can go back in time, what is that thing that you will never do again, that based on whatever results you got out of it?
Neglect investors. Take their money and then don't communicate with them. It's something I'll never do again.
Okay.
You're shooting yourself in the foot if you do that. You think you're concentrating on your mission, but you've got to communicate with your investors. And I was bad at it for years, and now I'm very good at it. But I would never do that again. Neglect investors.
Do you think you had reasons to do that? You had other reasons not to communicate? Because I know in the beginning you wanted to keep everything under the radar for strategic reasons.
No. The private communications between investors are not public, so there was no real good reason not to.
Okay.
Not to let them know what was going on.
All right.
You've got to keep up with them, and it can take so many forms, and you can automate it. I mean, we have a whole new group of potential investors coming from a new source for us, and I took the time to write out a brand new 10-week update on what is tumor-treating fields. I drew from my other ones, but they're new. I used AI to help me do it. Then I put them in our program, Constant Contact, and it's automated for 10 weeks.
Awesome.
So if I get the first 30 prospects went in there, so without me doing a thing, they're going to get 10 weeks in a row. If I'm on week 3 and I get 10 new leads, I put them in that list, and it's smart enough, it takes them to week 1 and keeps them on a 10-week track. So now I'm getting more sophisticated, and there are ways to do that. But neglecting investors it's something I won't do again.
All right. What does success look like for you? Because it means a lot of different things for different people. So, what will be success for you?
Well, it is tied together with getting these people. When we first started out, we had people that, Peter, I could lose this money and it wouldn't change my lifestyle. Now, some of those same people have invested over and over and over again. And I'm going, if we don't deliver for them, this could affect their lifestyle. So their trust is huge for me, and getting them a decent return on their money safely and responsibly it's got to be a part of what I consider success. Now, having said that, I will have a complete breakdown if I ever meet a woman in her 30s with 4 children with breast cancer whose life was saved from our therapy. That would be the sweetest success.
Yeah.
I will lose it.
I hope to see that day and soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing
I'll
that.
go fishing for a long time after that one.
And bike riding, right? One last question. I'm sure there's folks out there that are dealing with something similar, or perhaps they have an idea. And what would you say to them about chasing that dream and or chasing after that idea? What advice do you have for them?
So there's a saying in the Christian life is, test the will of God. God confirmed the work of my hands. So that's the first thing I would do. If you're a believer, wise men seek counsel. There's victory in many counselors. Does this make sense? Is it a good business plan? Go to a business incubator. Let them review it. Is it just emotional for you, or is there really good business sense here? Raise $5,000 and go out and just do a patent search to see if it's even patentable to make sense. Test the will of God and get confirmation on that. Because once you have that, it's like getting married in a way. You go, I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to go through pre-marriage counseling. And once I make that decision, I'm not going to doubt it. I mean, this is what I'm supposed to be doing and called to. And, if God changes that, he changes that. But that's the first thing I would do is make sure it's not emotional. A lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake, I have a good idea. Let's invent it. Not, does it fill a need? You should start with, what's important and underserved, what's highly important to people and underserved. And are you solving that kind of problem? That's from outcome-driven innovation, which I'm a big believer in as a innovation platform. But yeah, that's the first thing I would do is get confirmation. And then if you have that confirmation, be realistic about your own gifts. I mean, I remember being in the incubator class, and they went around the room and said, who's your first hire going to be? And I said, at that point, well, I'm going to hire a CEO. And they said, I thought you were going to be the CEO. So I'm not going to be the CBO of a global $1 billion company. Yeah. That's not my gift. You got to get rid of your own ego here and make sure you're placing your gifts in the right place and use other people's gifts.
Yeah.
And you probably can't do that by yourself. You need to have prayer partners or confidants, objective reviewers, and then take it to heart. Don't get prideful. Mm-hmm. Maybe you have the wrong idea and you shouldn't do that and you should pursue some other idea. The entrepreneurial engine, thing is, there are some, my dad owned his own business. My brothers own their own business. I'm glad to be called to be doing what I'm doing, but I'd be doing something else entrepreneurial if it wasn't for this.
Right.
And so just be realistic about it.
Well, thank you for what you do. Thank you for being intentional. I know that your mission is to change life. But just so you know, you have changed many people's life, including mine, because you were one of the first company that I assisted in Seminole County in Winter Springs, and I was blessed to meet your family, to be inside your home and meet your wife. So thank you for allowing me to come into your life, and thank you for sharing your story. I hope and wish you the best, and I can't wait to hear what's next in a couple of years. So. Thank you so much. Anything else you want to say to us?
Well, I'm grateful to you, Raphael, and I'm grateful to the UCF Business Incubator. Back at you. We wouldn't be here. You were the first confirmation that, hey, there's some logic behind this, and that it's a worthy call. And you personally committing to help us. You'll never know how much that meant in our early infancy. Yeah. We were in the intensive care unit at that point. And you were like the doctor and the nurse that came along and said, we're gonna keep you going here until you mature. So we
Thank you.
Really appreciate you and all you've done.
All right. Thank you so much, Peter.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.